Episode 147 of Australia's #1 marketing show. I'm calling this the Passion episode. Listen in and you'll discover why very quickly.
Welcome to the Small Business Big Marketing Show, where successful small business owners share their secrets to take your marketing to the next level. Now here's your host, Tim Reid.
G'day listeners and welcome back to another episode of Australia's favourite small business marketing show. I am your host, Timbo Reid, but so much more importantly, you are the motivated small business owner who is there to crank out some great marketing to build your business. And that's why we're here. And we're brought to you by the very good folk at Net Registry. A little bit more about them in a minute. And I also welcome everyone from the Flying Solo community. Big show today, guys. Can you hear the passion in my voice? Because I am feeling incredibly passionate. I've just hung up from a very passionate individual who is out there to change the world. And he's having a fair crack at it, I've got to tell you. And also, I have got a very passionate question from a 13-year-old listener. So plenty to cover. I am going to get stuck right into it. Let me share a question I got through smallbusinessbigmarketing.com, where you can send me voicemails and emails. It's from Kim, and Kim says, "Hello, Tim. My name is Jess." Oh, actually, hang on. It's actually from Kim. That must be her mum. But the email is from Jess. So, my name is Jess. I'm 13. I live on Phillip Island and I love surfing. At a young age of around 10 years, I knew my life was meant for surfing. I had to base my career around it. I am so keen for surfing and I have wanted to start up my own brand. I feel as if I need your help. As you probably know, Phillip Island is kind of famous for surfing and Grand Prix, and they had the Bells Beach Pro there in 2005. Who would have known? Surfing has a huge impact on us down here, and I want to make it a little bit more special. Good on you, Jess, for wanting to do that. You're passionate. I need to start my own surfing brand. The internet is an amazing place for promotional things with Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Tumblr, and starting your own webpage. Any ideas would be fabulous. Well, first of all, young Jess, well done at the age of 13 for having that dream. I absolutely encourage you to chase it with both hands, arms, legs, everything. I just think it's fantastic and it will slowly, maybe quickly, come to life. Here's some things I suggest you do if you do have the dream of wanting to start your own surf brand. Number one, let's focus on brand. Go and write down the story behind why you want to do what you want to do, okay? Just write freehand. Don't try and be kind of, formal in the way you write. Just write down the story about why you want to start this surf brand and why you believe yours will be better than all the other ones in the marketplace. Part of that, of understanding your brand, is also ask yourself, what problem are you solving? Right? So you might just need to figure out who you're talking to in order to figure out what problem you're solving. But once you know the problem you're solving for people, then it'll be easier to develop the brand, easier to name it, easier to develop products within it. And also get really clear, Jess, on who you're doing it for. Is this for girls your age? Is it for older people? Is it for, who's it for? So once you get clear on those three parts of your brand, your story, the problem you're solving, and who you're doing it for, the next part will become really easy. And that is to have some fun and go and give it a name. Give this brand a name. You might already have it, but if you haven't, have some fun and toss around some names with some friends and see what comes up. You'll know with the name when it comes. It'll hit you between the eyes and you'll go, I love that name. And that's when you know you've hit the magical name. Then go and get a logo designed. Now, you might want to do that. You might want to set a challenge to your art class at school to design a logo for your new surf brand. Or if you have got some money to spend, maybe mum and dad will throw a bit of dough at it, then go to a place like 99 Designs and get a logo designed. Okay, keep talking about it is another point I've got here. just keep talking about the dream. Never let it go, right? Share your dream with all sorts of people like you're doing with me. But the more you keep it in the front of your mind, the more it will obviously stay there. And it'll kind of, you'll mention it to someone and they'll just go, oh, look, I know such and such. And the next thing you know, the dream gets a little bit more closer to reality. Set up a website. I'm trying to sort of come up with ideas here that will not involve a lot of money. Go to a site like Squarespace, which is just going to allow you to set up a website and a blog, in particular a blog, really cheaply for like $9 a month. I think you can do it, and that way you can start blogging about your dream. And it's another way of keeping it alive. You'll start to get a bit of ranking on Google once you've got that name sorted out. Register the domain name for your brand name and start to blog about it. And it has a funny effect of, again, bringing the dream closer to becoming possible. So another idea, find a mentor. I would go as far as identifying someone who you really admire. You know, it might be like a Lorna Jane or a Michelle Bridges who have gone out and done this exact thing. They've started fitness brands, clothing brands, and sort of tap them on the shoulder, send them an email like you have me, and you just don't know. If you don't ask, you don't get. And it's something I'm going to talk to my guest about in a minute. Finally, go to a website and have a look at a website like Pozible, Pozible.com, and you will be able to put in a request for funding your idea, okay? And I do that once you've done all the other stuff, like getting clarity around your brand and your logo and your name, start blogging about it, and then go out and say, okay, well, I need some money to start creating some products for this brand. And a website, which is a crowdsourcing website like Pozible, is a place where you can go and get some dough for that. So Jess and Jess's mum, Kim, thanks so much for sending that in. If you do go ahead with it and you start to get a name or a logo, send it through. I would love to see it. All right, now on the aspect of passion, on the topic of passion, I'm about to share a very passionate fireside chat I had with Daniel Flynn, from previously known as the founder of Thank You Water. If you have a listen to episode 136, I have Daniel on. He's a social entrepreneur, basically, who is trying to save the world one bottle of water at a time. However, that isn't enough for Daniel. He has 2 days ago made two, what I would consider in the scheme of small business, really, really big announcements, really exciting announcements that I even struggled to get my head around, and because of the nature of them. So this is in this interview, Daniel will share those two announcements. There is something for you to do at the end to help him save the world. In between that, I did have to ask some hard questions of him. I am absolutely supportive of what Daniel does, but what he set out to do is just so far-reaching, so exciting, so passionate that I kind of needed to bring him back to some commercial reality and just ask him some hard questions along the way. And I think you will really enjoy this interview. I think you'll find it inspiring. I think you kind of will at some stages be shaking your head, other stages be jumping out of your chair, punching the air. So look, without further ado, I'll hand over to Daniel and our fireside chat. And at the back end of it, I'm going to share 3 learnings that kind of hit me between the eyes in talking to Dan. So here's Daniel from the new brand, Thank You. Daniel Flynn, founder of Thank You Water. Welcome back to Small Business Big Marketing.
Tim, thank you for having us on the show again.
Mate, it's not often I say welcome back, but I think it's a well-deserved welcome back. In episode 136, mate, you teased my audience and me with a big announcement, which was imminent, but you couldn't say anything. You have now gone live with this announcement. In fact, 2, mate. Exciting times. Yep. So why don't we start with the first one about range? What have you done?
Well, look, Tim, I did tease you guys a little bit. I hope you haven't been disappointed, though, with the launch. I did say something big was coming. And look, it is.
I have got so many questions for you.
All right, looking forward to it. Well, look, I'll run you through it. So basically, the why behind this shift is that, for 5 years we've been doing water, and you and the listeners know that now. And so we sell water, we fund water projects. Now, it took us 3 years to help 5,000 people. 2 years on, which is about 2 weeks ago, we've hit over 56,000 people getting access to water. So that's big, but there are other issues. And when we visit these communities, you see it firsthand. Water is definitely a big deal, but then there's issues around nutrition, even food security, health and hygiene. And so we wanted to find a way to connect Australians with not just giving people access to water, but that real transformational change in a community. So for 15 months, we've been working to develop what we think is a market-leading product range. So we've launched a food range and a body care range in addition to our existing water range. So there's 21 products in total. In food, you've got muesli bars, clusters, oats, and quick oats. In the body care range, you've got hand wash, hand lotion, and a hand sanitizer. So the range, essentially food funds food programs. So each pack that you buy provides 1 week's access to food for someone in need. So 1 pack, 1 week. Plus, it also funds a long-term sustainable program. And then in the body care range, every bottle you buy contributes to one person getting access to health and hygiene training. So that's kind of how it works. And I know, Tim, we talked about Track Your Impact last time, and Track Your Impact 2.0 has just gone live, with the new website this week, and every single product is part of it.
Out of control, mate. It's massive. Where do you start? This is just a massive project, and well done. I just think,
thank you.
What makes you think? Let's talk marketing, and then we'll move over to kind of social conscience stuff and passion. But what makes you think that the Thank You water brand, which was up until this week, is so stretchable that it can now go into food and into it's not toiletries, it's body care. What makes you think it's so stretchable?
Look, Tim, for me, it's quite a personal question because it goes back 5 years ago. See, we launched the Thank You Water concept, and really it was a test run. And look, I hoped it would be up and running in 6 months, kicking goals, but it didn't. It took years to get anywhere. But from day one, myself and the other founders, Jared and Justine, we've always dreamed this idea of the Thank You brand or movement. It's not a product, it's an idea. It's an idea about changing the world. And so, it's going to take people a little bit of getting used to be honest, to go from, okay, it was Thank You Water, now it's something else. And we weren't too sure what the transition is going to be like, but a lot of people in this week have just said, we thought this would come, or we've seen this coming, or we've wanted it to happen. So that's the good news. And I think it's because really it's about selling the idea. And the idea is in that brand Thank You, not in the product water itself.
Yeah, no, I get that. I sort of from a marketing theory point of view, I get the fact that you're building the credentials, the equity around this concept of Thank You versus the idea of the product of water. Jim, I interviewed Jim from Jim's Mowing a few weeks ago, and similar kind of thing, although he didn't do it intentionally, but at a point he realised that this brand, this concept of Jim stood for, a trustworthy, honest Australian, and it could therefore apply to dog wash or bookkeeping or whatever you kind of wanted to attach it to. And I guess you've identified the fact that Thank You stands for, what does it stand for?
Well, look, we think it stands for this idea: live every day, give every day. So really, it's this idea of connecting you with, changing the world, but in your everyday life. Now, there's a lot of good causes out there, but we actually stand alone and quite different, really, because this is about an action, a choice in your everyday life. So that's what we think we stand for, and that's what we hope people pick up on.
Have you? I hate this question, but I have to ask you. Have you done the research? Have you? Because I do tend to, like you, operate more off emotion than numbers. But have you done any research to say, the brand can go anywhere?
Look, Tim. Look, I am a bit of a dreamer, and we as a team, we do dream big and think big. So when I say we've done some research, it would be nothing like some brands would research, and the research, and the I suppose the resource they'd have to even do that research would be significant. For us, we've done maybe small research, but really had our ear to the ground over the last 5 years, and we think this transition, will be successful. So only time will tell, but we'll see what happens.
So you're operating off some, I would say, it sounds like qualitative research. You ask people, you're listening to your gut. Good on you. I mean, for me, should be more people like you out there, but let's dig a little bit deeper. Dan, is passion getting in the way of business smarts? Again, a question I feel like I have to ask, because there'll be people thinking, because you're passionate, you're out to save the world, mate. You've saved 50,000 lives. You want to save 1 million very soon, and then 10 million. I'll watch the video. We'll talk about that in a minute. But, have you kind of sat back and asked yourself the hard question? Have you got mentors tapping you on the shoulder? Passion versus business smarts.
Yeah, sure. Look, Tim, mentors have been a big part of the journey. And so, we've got some great mentors who, to be honest, have really encouraged us and really, helped us not just dream big, but set up the infrastructure and the management for this. So for the past 15 months, when I say we've developed a range, there has been a lot of work going on, a lot of work that most people haven't seen coming, and a lot of planning and preparation, because, and I know we'll touch on this later, our strategy to get this to market is quite bold. But we can't just go out and say, we'd like it to happen. We actually have to be ready for it to happen. Yep. So we've set up right across, every part of this sort of vision. We've set up the infrastructure that it's going to take to be able to manage growth and continue to see it grow. So in answer to your question, yes, there's a lot of passion here, but I believe, and people close to us who, walk the journey, believe we have what it takes from the business smarts point of view to actually see this work. Again, it's one of those things that only time will tell. But we think we're in a good position. Do
you have someone who walks alongside you, Dan, that asks all the questions that you don't?
Yeah, look, I do, and initially I didn't like it. In fact,
I was going to say, does he or she give you the shits?
Look, I wouldn't say that. Definitely not on air. I wouldn't say that. Now, I have actually told there's probably 3 people who sort of sit, in that position in my life, in different ways. One in a personal kind of area, and others in a business function. And I've said to them before, you know what? Catching up with you feels like drinking a cup of hot tar. It doesn't taste good. It feels like I just feel like giving up. But initially I didn't want to catch up with them again. But then I started to discover that pretty much everything they said, even though I felt it was negative and critical, they were actually spot on. And so for the past few years, I've needed them. At the beginning it was like, don't squash this dream. And now it's like, well, hang on, you guys are actually not squashing it. And their heart is not to squash it, it's to see it thrive. But you've got to ask the tough questions. You've got to really dig in deep. And, you've got to, so look, in answer to your question, yes, I've got it. And it is very uncomfortable.
Yeah. Well, it's like preparing the questions for this interview. I've got questions here that I don't really want to ask, because it feels like that's where I'm coming from, being the negative. I am not. I am so... I just think, I was talking to a guy who was driving me back from the airport the other night, and we were talking about characters in business. And, I put you there. I put you right there, mate. You're not this flamboyant guy, but you're having a crack and you're adding some personality and chutzpah, chutzpah. Yeah. Is that what the Jewish people say? Chutzpah. To what is a very, very serious business landscape. So, I get that. That drinking tar analogy is a good one. Tell me, so actually, just out of interest, how did you find those people who hand you the cups of tar to drink?
That's a good question. How do you find them? Look, it's a journey over time. There are some people who, have wanted to be, do kind of mentoring relationship early on. And it's quite funny because the more success we had, the more people wanted to be part of mentoring or helping it along. But it's really interesting to understand people's motives, and very quickly, what looked like genuine help ended up being weird. So I can't say everyone is, that's how I'll put it. I can't say everyone who's come along is like, welcome, you can have input into my life. But these people have come in over time, and we've really built that trust relationship. They're not in it for their name. They don't want their name up in lights for this. They just are genuine believers of the brand and are willing to work with me. And one of the guys I did work experience with back in year 10. And he was, he was remarkable. I was, in year 10. He at the time was the managing director of one of the largest companies in Australia, still is. And I was lucky enough to get a week with him. And that blew my mind that week. And I thought that might be it. But, over the last probably, 6 or 7 years, we've stayed in contact. And, it's been a really helpful journey. So, I suppose it's just come over time.
Interesting. Now, listeners, we have we're sort of halfway through talking about the first big announcement. There is a second big announcement which will blow your mind. So stay tuned for that. I'm talking to Daniel Flynn, founder of Thank You Water. Dan, you've just introduced, so the first big announcement, 22 new products to the range. How do you do that? Tell us about the process of going, okay, well, we're going to introduce food and body care. Like, where do you start?
Yeah, okay, Tim, look, it's a good question. Now, we started as a team with this kind of brief. Number one, we have to produce products that are as good, if not better than competitors. And number two, by buying it, you're changing the world. Now, the reason that hierarchy is so important to us is if we flip that, and if we just try and sell a good cause, you and me and probably everyone will buy it once because we should do a good thing, but then we'll go back to what we actually enjoy eating or using or whatever. So we said, look, this brand, these products have to stand on their own 2 feet as a product, and then we add thank you to it and track your impact, and hopefully, the rest is history. So we started out with a tough brief. We tested, all the products out in the market. We looked for gaps. We looked for things that others weren't doing. And we have gone pretty bold, particularly like even in the muesli ranges and the food range. We've put some flavors out there and some combinations that others haven't gone with. And look, we're stepping out, but from our research, we believe we're going to see a really good result. And part of the food range, particularly, it was a tough jump to go from water to food. In fact, Tim, most people said to me initially, no, that's silly. It's impossible. You can't do that. People trust you as the water guys, and now you're telling them you make good food. So we enlisted the help of a man by the name of Callum Han. Now, Callum won MasterChef for All Stars. He's written cookbooks, runs his own cooking school. And he joined our team about 6 or 7 months ago now. And so he's been working in the background to develop the tastes, the flavors, the health aspects, and working with some of Australia's leading manufacturers. And obviously our team, we've been able to put together a range that we're proud of. And, I'm personally addicted to the samples and can't wait for it, to hit the market.
Yeah. Tell me, and listeners, by the way, and Dan, the line's okay. Listeners, stick with it. I know it's absolutely bearable, but we the old Skype every now and then does let us down. Dan, how do you get someone like Callum Han, who did win MasterChef for overseas listeners, kind of the biggest cooking TV series in Australia? How did you tap him on the shoulder? Clearly, I'm guessing he's got a bit of a social conscience.
Look, it's interesting. He'd helped out once with a little stunt for Thank You Water. We'd written to probably 100 different celebrities. He was one of few who got back to us. So there was an existing small relationship. He was in Melbourne because he's Adelaide based, and we invited him to the office. He walks in, thinking he's just coming to the water company. We sit down at the board table. We say, Callum, thanks for coming. This is who we are. This is where we're going. Here's what we want to do. And he was mind-blowing, partly because, one, the products were cool, but probably more importantly, he could just see the potential of this if we nailed it. So he said, what the heck am I doing here? And we said, well, we want to offer you a position on the team as our CTO, Chief Taste Officer. And he laughed. He laughed. He's like, what the heck? And we talked about what the role involves, and he's like, you know what? He said he can't say yes on the spot, but he came back pretty quickly, and he was just like, man, it's an honor to be part of this. And so how did we get him on? It was relatively easy, but I think it was just a good fit. He's young like us. He's a dreamer, but he's also realistic. He knows that if we don't nail this, well, we're not helping anyone.
Does he cost you a fortune?
No, not at all. So that's been pretty crazy. I mean, from day one, he was, not in this for the money. And I suppose that's across the board with our whole team. they get paid salaries based on the charitable sector. I mean, that's our public position. It's actually a bit below that, unfortunately, but we'll get it up there.
Yeah.
But he was the same. So for him, it's not about the money. And we really had to stress that with all the different management groups that are involved with someone like that. And I think it took caught them off guard a bit that he just actually genuinely wanted to do this. So anyway, that's where we're at.
Well, if you don't ask, you don't get. And I hear that so often with so many past interviews I've done where, a guest will, share something and you go, how on earth did you do that? And it's like, well, you can ask, I interviewed a guy, Steve Sim, who has a company in LA called Bluefish, and the whole business of Bluefish is arranging just amazing experiences for people. If they want to, he'd organise someone to do the tango with Angelina Jolie at a Victoria's Secrets party, and it was like, well, okay, so now I need to ask a few questions of people to see whether I can get it, and we could get it. So yeah, interesting learning. Now, Dan, let's get it stuck into announcement number 2, mate, and that deserves an absolute drum roll.
Yeah,
because not only have you just introduced a whole 22 products to the Thank You Water range beyond water. Yeah. You've launched what you are calling the Coles and Woolworths campaign. What is that?
Well, Tim, you're probably in Australia, and for international listeners, to understand the dynamic in our country, 70% of grocery shoppers shop at either Coles or Woolworths. So they hold the market. And it's been about 5 years, and the water has never made it on the shelf. And look, that is what it is. And I suppose with
Coles and Woolworths,
this entire new range is grocery driven. So we know if we don't get in one or both, well, we're not going to make any impact. Now, we have some existing partners, guys like 7-Eleven, Australia Post, and some great people who'll be taking on parts of the range, but only the parts that really relate to impulse buying. So this is grocery focused. So we launched the Coles and Woolworths campaign 2 days ago. Essentially, we said this on national TV and, through different social network channels. We said 2 weeks from today, we've booked a meeting with both of them, which we have. We said, but this time we don't want to head in alone. We want you to come in with us so that they see this isn't just a nice little idea, but there's people willing to get behind it. And so we asked people to upload a video or a post directly onto Coles or Woolworths' Facebook page at any point within the next 2 weeks, just to say, Coles and Woolies, if you stock the Thank You range, I'd buy it. Mm-hmm. Now, we launched that on Wednesday morning at about 8:50 a.m. And look, you can have many hopes for how campaigns will go. The funny thing about this one is we can't control it. It's sort of the power's in the people's hands. So it's either going to fly or it's not. And within a few seconds of the launch, both Facebook pages exploded with response. And part of that was we had national TV coverage. But it's gone out of control. Even in the past 2 days, it's already smashed a lot of our metrics that we were hoping to hit within 2 or 1 day. So, yeah,
out of control. So listeners, what Dan's done is, and what Thank You Water have done, I've created this video. It goes for about 7 minutes. It's called the Coles and Woolworths campaign. It's on YouTube. Just Google Thank You Water Coles campaign. Is that the easiest way to get to it, Dan?
Yeah, look. Yeah, either that or hit our new website, www.thankyou.co.
Yep.
So not .com, but .co. Mm-hmm. And we've got a campaign website there, and you can see all the media that's happened. You can see obviously the clip as well.
So it's a very cool video. It got a bit of a Dollar Shave Club kind of coolness about it, and you are there explaining all about the range, all about the Coles and Woolworths campaign. We're 2 days into it. You've had 60,000 views. You've got a whole lot of people uploading videos, and people like Nicole Livingston, another guest of mine, Jules Lund. I'm sure there's a whole lot of other celebrities that have done it. Did you upload that video and then did the media come to you? Did you also do some press releases?
Yeah, correct. So we've worked really hard on this campaign, obviously wanting to do everything we can for it not to fail. And so we'd lined up the launch of the new range and the announcement of the campaign on Channel 7's Sunrise program. So that happened on Wednesday morning, and we released the video online at the same time. Mm-hmm. So the first initial response that went out of control we don't even think that was our fan base because our video had literally just hit the Facebook. So we got a lot of new supporters just sort of out of nowhere who saw the story and went, you know what, this is crazy. We got to get behind it.
Yeah, fantastic. Tell me, oh boy, again, so many questions. 5 years in, Coles and Woolworths haven't taken up the water. Is there something that you know that makes you think that they're going to now say yes to 20 other products?
It's a good question, Tim. And look, the answer is this. We are keeping this campaign very positive. And, there are reasons that any big retailer won't stock a small product or a kind of a, like a small independent. And part of it is risk for them. That they need to, for them to put a product on shelf, in fairness to them, it's a commercial decision that carries risk, because if it doesn't sell, yet another product could have been on shelf and would have sold. That's that commercial risk. So, for them, I think what we've seen is maybe a bit of a hesitation to try something new and something a little bit different. But what I have found, and what we believe, not just for Coles or Woolworths, but any retailer in this country, is when you present an idea, you often get a response that's a little bit along the lines of, good on you, that's great, we'll review it, and in about a year's time, they get back to you saying they're not really interested. They have other focuses for their business. So we've learnt quickly, we can't present an idea. We need to present an opportunity. So we've created an opportunity. And it's a very public one, and a lot of media's got behind it, and a lot of people have got behind it. But it's really saying, hey, here's not an idea. Here's an opportunity for you to partner with us, and together we're going to go on to literally change the world. And that sounds like a nice little cliche tagline, but the reality is it's also the truth, and we can back that. So we've created the opportunity, and obviously hoping that they'll take it up. The other thing I should mention, Tim, is this campaign, the design of it, while it looks like it's to get products on the shelf, it's in fact a little bit different. It's actually, the aim of this is to get the products off the shelf and off quickly, because getting a product onto the supermarket shelf, that's a win, but it's not the big win, because if your product doesn't sell, it is all over. And that's why a brand will put a new product on, they'll invest $5 million into advertising, they'll get public awareness, the product will sell. Now, we don't have, and some brands are investing $5 million for one product line. We've got 22 or whatever. So the figures are mind-blowing. So we've gone, well, look, we don't have five, we got nothing. So let's look at this differently. What if we could get people committing to it beforehand, so that when it hits, it doesn't just sit there among 40,000 products. It actually moves.
Because you're not going to, one of the things that these big guys in Coles and Woolworths ask is, where's the media schedule? I don't imagine you're walking in with a large media schedule to support the campaign if they do put it on the shelves.
Oh, look, Tim, we have, look, you're right. And that's why this campaign is what it is. It's about going, well, you've just seen half of the media schedule. It was last week. But we have got a couple of things planned. We've had some really good, some really good opportunities open up with some of the networks, Channel 7, Channel 9, who have run in the past a TV ad for us for free under their CSA guidelines. And that's had huge coverage, like, spots during the ARIAs worth 20 grand, just remarkable coverage. So they've both committed to, playing a new ad for us when we launch the Thank You range ad. And so should the supermarkets take it on, we've backed it up with, here's how we're marketing it, here's what we're doing. And look, we believe, yes, it's different to what they'd get from a Coca-Cola or a, Uncle Toby's presentation. It's going to look different, but we think it's just as powerful because really it's involving people. And so that's sort of where we're at.
Dan, I posted on the Small Business Big Marketing's Facebook a couple of days ago when the video went live, and shared with the listeners what's happening, and great feedback. One of the guys, and it's sort of a question on notice, I suppose, but one of the listeners came back quite negative, not towards what you're doing, but towards the big guys that you are about to meet with in a week and a half's time. I'll just kind of summarise what he said. It'd be interesting to get your response. It's sort of like, here you go, here's a glass of tar to drink. He says, do they really want to dance with the devil? With all the press, all the people who have lost everything dealing with these companies, what makes Thank You Water think they are different to the multitude that have gone before them? These companies are showing them how brutal they are, but don't even try to hide it anymore. They smile while they screw companies over. Pretty harsh words.
Yeah. Look, Tim, look, I can't comment on, I've read all the papers. I've heard many things. The truth is, in the last 5 years, while we haven't dealt with these two retailers, if I told you some of the stories of not so much our retail partners are amazing. I'll be very clear and upfront with that. But there's also, there's distribution networks, and there are things that have happened that have, I suppose, made us our skin a little bit tough, a little bit thicker, because we've had a lot of different games played, a lot of issues come up. So we get it, we're used to it. What makes us think that anything will be different? Part of me hopes that they'll buy into the fact that they are part of something truly remarkable, something that they've probably never seen before. That aside, this is still a commercial offer. All their margins are built into it. And look, there's not a lot of options in this country. 70% of us shop there, and that is part of the game. So to dance with the devil, I mean, that's one way to look at it. I look at it that if they're not on board, well, we haven't got that traction we need. So we need to find a way to make it happen and work together.
A little bit of a role play, Dan. You walk into the meeting. I'll be Mr. Coles or Mr. Woolworths, and I'll say, welcome, Daniel. You've put us in a very awkward position. There's a whole lot of people out there demanding that we stock your thank you products. If we don't, we're going to look very bad. What do you say to that?
Look, Tim, that's a good question. And I probably, we'll probably just have to see how it comes in the meeting, to be honest. Like it's hard to...
Sorry, Mr. Coles.
It's hard to sort of react and that sort of thing. I think what we have been clear on from the beginning, and will continue to be very clear on, is, while this may look like something that could end bad, the design of it is the opposite. It's to end very well. And my dream is to have, and we've got media, people already interested in doing this. They're keen to do it. But I know in the past we've talked about track your impact, and every product has its own code. You see GPS coordinates and all that sort of thing. I'd love to be literally in a supermarket with media going, okay, let's grab a couple of products. Let's track the impact. Awesome. Now let's head overseas and see the results. And that's, like, this is positive, and this should be positive. So I understand there may be a little bit of awkwardness around it, but really this is an opportunity to do something different. And I think we've proven that in the campaign itself.
Mate, I absolutely concur. I love your passion. I love your emotion. I love the fact that you don't have every question answered, and I love the fact that my listeners are about to help you. So what can they do right now on Friday the 19th of July? What date's your meeting?
Meeting with Coles next Friday, which is on our website. We put the date up, and we got Woolies the Tuesday following, and Foodland, which are a big South Australian supermarket, have jumped in and said, well, we're really keen to stock this. So we're meeting with them next week as well.
Okay, so what do we got to do, mate?
Tim, what I'd ask the listeners to do is head to our website, so www.thankyou.co, because first, I think it's important that you look at the range, you see the products, and go, hey, you know what? I genuinely like to get behind this. Obviously, watch the video. If you could watch it, it's on YouTube, it's on our website, and it's on our Facebook page, which is Thank You, one word. Watch it, share it, and then we'd ask you to post up on the Coles and Woolworths page, just something to get their attention. And look, people are getting pretty creative, which I love. We've seen songs, pictures, some crazy stuff. So I think this is a fun campaign, and listeners should have some fun. But anything you can do to share this and get the word out, obviously, is greatly appreciated. But more than that, it's the key to hopefully going on to taking that number of 56,000 people and smashing it.
Love it, mate. Listeners, please do that. I'll put links in the show notes to this. We'll get an email out over the weekend to anyone registered at smallbusinessbigmarketing.com. Head over to thankyou.co and do what Dan said. We just got to get on board. And one of the last things Dan says in the video that you will watch is, don't ask what if it doesn't work. ask what if it does. And I think that's they're big words from a little guy. Well done, Dan.
Appreciate it, Tim. Thank you and the listeners so much for your support.
What about that, folks? What about the passion Daniel is showing? Extraordinary. What an extraordinary story. I mean, I hope and I pray that it works for him. I've got a feeling it will. The guy is relentless. He ain't going to give up easily. Now, listen, there's 3 learnings I got from that. I'm sure you got many more, but let me share the ones with you that really hit me between the eyes. Number 1, don't research an idea within an inch of its life, okay? This tip ain't for everyone. There are those of you who are listening that have to research things to within an inch of its life. That's just how you are. I tend to be the opposite. Daniel seems to fit into that camp as well. He kind of follows the lean startup model. The Lean Startup's a book that came out a couple of years ago by a Harvard professor, I think, of entrepreneurship. He talks about the minimum viable product and getting something to market without it being completely finished or resourced. So don't research an idea within an inch of its life. Number 2, learning from that chat with Daniel, this concept of brand stretch, really interesting. Spoke about it with Jim Penman a few weeks ago from Jim's Mowing. It's just an interesting concept. Ask yourself the question, what categories could you extend your brand, your business into beyond what you're already in? You know, Jim's done it. Daniel's now doing it. Branson's done it with Virgin. You know, it's about understanding what that parent brand that you're building stands for beyond just the category that you're currently operating in. Interesting concept. 3rd kind of learning from that fireside chat with Daniel, ask and you shall receive. Well, I'll rephrase that. Ask and you may well receive. Won't always receive, but ask. And, I suggested that to Jess earlier with her idea about starting a surf brand. And I see it often. You know, you just think, just ask. You never know what people are going to say or where they're going to refer you to. You know, there is that whole concept of 6 degrees of separation, which is what LinkedIn is based on. So you don't know who knows who, and things are possible. So I'd love to know if you had any additional learnings from that chat with Daniel. Please go to the Small Business Big Marketing website, smallbusinessbigmarketing.com. This is episode 147. Leave a comment in the show notes. I would love to know what you thought of that interview and what you're going to implement from it. Now, guys, encourage you to also go to the thankyou.co website, have a look at Daniel's video and create that video for Coles and Woolworths, whack it on their Facebook page, and let's get that idea sorted. Let's get those 22 products on the shelves of Coles and Woolworths. We need to help Daniel move that along. It's such a great cause. Now, guys, remember this show, you talk about passion for something. Net Registry is passionate about getting your business sorted online. Search engine optimization, domain name hosting, website design and development, you name it. Net Registry will get you sorted. They're passionate about online marketing for small business. So tell them Timbo sent you. Head over to netregistry.com.au and those guys will help you in any aspect of your online marketing, and they make this show possible. That's how passionate they are. All right, enough from me. I would encourage you to head over to smallbusinessbigmarketing.com and join the forum. Join the forum because that's where I hang out. I answer your marketing questions. There's a whole lot of other motivated small business owners just like you doing the same, and I would love to see you in there. It's a massive $49 a month, and it's probably the best marketing dollar you will ever spend because we keep you motivated. That's what we do inside the forum. Guys, that is all. Until next week, when there will be another inspiring individual to come on this show and share some marketing gold. I hope your business is cranking along and may your marketing be the best marketing. I'll see you next week. Bye for now.
You've been listening to the Small Business Big Marketing Show with Tim Reid. Want more marketing goodness? Then visit smallbusinessbigmarketing.com.